Well, good morning, everyone out there. We're very pleased to have you with us in what's going to be a very exciting week of idea exchange, exploration of programs, policies, innovations, and science that are underway as we explore this issue of within reach, zero hunger. Students, faculty, program managers, and implementers will be joined with thought leaders in looking at some of the latest strategies and issues so that we can indeed see that zero hunger is within reach in the most expeditious way possible, by 2030 if possible, if not by the most rapid means that are possible and consistent with our humanitarian approaches. For all of us who want to explore strategies and circumstances where zero hunger can be indeed within reach, the next 4 days are going to be exciting, with challenging ideas and approaches being provided and amazing examples that'll be new to you and to me. We're all going to be learning as we go. We're going to be challenged by research findings and by new educational strategies. But most of all, we're going to be inspired by the idealism exhibited by the young leaders of tomorrow who are admirably pragmatic about the need to eliminate hunger. And with the thought leaders we have, our speakers and panelists, exhibitors and sponsors, we're going to be engaged in a community effort to explore this new dimension of human potential. So to all of you, over 400 participants we have from over 18 universities around the nation and 7 or more partner universities around the world, as well as the development and relief organizations and private sector entities that have joined with us. You're the leaders that have really committed themselves to the 4 themes that have guided the organization of this conference: transformation, innovation, community, and advocacy. You're the thought leaders and the doers who are really making a difference in what you do every day. And we thank you for being in this community effort to eliminate hunger in the world. This program is put on by the Deaton Institute. Just a word about it. We were founded in 2014, committed to bringing the expertise of faculty and disciplines across the university to the facets of food security and extreme poverty that knowledge helps alleviate. There are many disciplines in our universities in our pursuit of knowledge, and each and every one of them contributes in meaningful ways to this serious plague that we have on our society today. And we also recognize that food insecurity is here with us in Columbia, Missouri, where you live, as well as it is in sub-Saharan Africa and other parts of the world. And innovative solutions to address these problems have very much in common. And through collaborative work, we can find answers and secrets to unlock some of the transformative solutions that will be demonstrated this week and what we hope sow the seeds for future explorations. My wife, Ann, and I, drawing on our own international experiences and working with our students here at the University of Missouri, heard the plea from them to help enrich their university education by finding a way to work together as peers across disciplinary boundaries, drawing on that diverse knowledge base to find more effective ways to achieve food security in the world and alleviate the worst conditions of poverty. We want to recognize and salute the organization that started at Auburn University with the help of, I think, FAO and the World Food Program, the Universities Fighting World Hunger. They really set the way to coalesce universities and government and non-governmental organizations in the private sector to fight hunger in the world. We were fortunate here at the University of Missouri to host their summit in 2016, and out of that grew a student commitment to establish what the students wanted named the Deaton Scholars Program. And that became, the Deaton Scholars Program became the key thrust of our institute. And we have a scholar advisory board made up of some of the over 500 students who have now gone through this program. So I want to emphasize to all of you out there around the world that this conference grew from student-inspired ideas and student leadership. And I'm going to give a shout out to 2 people that I'm in the room with today that most of you have worked with over the last several months, really, the founding member of the DSP, Holly Anowski, who has been the director of this program and also the director of strategic partnerships for the Deaton Institute. Together with Summer LaRose, the director of the Deaton Scholars Program, they've really performed miracles and deserve our hearty thanks and applause. So join me wherever you are in applauding them for the wonderful work they have done to bring this 4-day conference to a reality. The faculty of our universities have also been extremely supportive. And they've served as speakers, advisors, judges, and mentors on many fronts over the past several years, and many of them are joining us this morning in discussion. And they have served as an important role to demonstrate the thrust of this university. And so I thank you all for being here. We're in for an exciting 4 days. And as I conclude my remarks, I turn to one of the strongest supporters here on campus to bring greetings and welcome from the University of Missouri. I'm speaking of Dr. James Spain, our Vice Provost for Undergraduate Studies, a fine scientist in his own right, and a superb administrator. Dr. Spain, we're happy to have you with us this morning. Welcome.
Thank you, Brady, and congratulations on today's conference and the great success that you and Ann have been able to achieve through the Deaton Institute. It's exciting to see it mature, and you and Ann continue to provide visionary leadership for conversations and collaborations that stretch not only across our campus, but across the country and around the world. So we are very, very grateful for that. In thinking about the context of this conference and innovation and transformation, I couldn't help, Brady, but think about Perseverance, the rover that just this past February landed on Mars. And Perseverance is the most sophisticated rover that NASA has deployed to Mars. And NASA selected Perseverance as the name because it embodies NASA's passion and our nation's capability to take on and overcome challenges. And a more recent challenge certainly has been the global pandemic and an international crisis that led to international collaboration in response. And as of April 10th, at least over 117 million Americans, or 35% of our population, have received at least one dose of the vaccine, and over 64 million, or 19% of our population, have received both or have been fully vaccinated. So these are just two recent examples of how technology does indeed transform our ability to respond to challenges. But we can build as we respond to zero hunger and the call for zero hunger based on the successes that we've achieved across agriculture. In 1960, for example, the average yield for corn in the United States was 40 bushels per acre. And in 2019, we averaged over 170 bushels per acre. Similarly, in 1960, soybean yields were less than 25 bushels per acre, and today they exceed 50 bushels per acre. In 1960, the average production of milk per cow in the United States was 6,000 pounds of milk. And this last year, the average dairy cow in the United States produced over 23,000 pounds of milk. Today, we produce twice as much pork per sow. And in the last 50 years, we've almost doubled the eggs produced in the United States, going from 70 billion to approximately 110 billion eggs. And in spite of those tremendous successes, we still face hunger. And there's no community in the United States or around the world that isn't impacted by hunger. And so the challenge, the charge is how can we maximize human capacity, recognizing that hunger prevents our fellow citizens to be all that they are capable of being and contributing all that they can contribute to the overall good of our collective communities and global society. So I'm excited to hear our keynote speaker and to be challenged by his remarks. And Brady, thank you, and Ann again for inviting me to bring greetings on behalf of the University of Missouri, the first public land grant university west of the Mississippi River, a frontier university that strives to be part of the solution in our collective efforts to reach the goal of zero hunger and maximizing the capacity of our across all of our communities. So Brady, thank you so much.
Jim, Dr. Spain, thank you. Thank you so much. We're delighted to be kicking off this conference with a keynote address by Vimlendra Sharan, the North American Liaison Office Director of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. He's been in that position since December of 2016, after a very successful career working within India and 2 decades really of international leadership. His previous posting was as permanent representative of India to the Rome-based UN agencies, where he served, among other capacities, as Vice President of the World Food Program Executive Board. We've been honored to have Dr. Sharan with us on campus before. He's a very big hit with faculty and students here, and we know he will be inspiring for all of us in this conference. So, Mr. Sharan, thank you so much for being with us, and I turn to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Deaton. I think that was very generous of you. I really don't know if I deserve all those praises that you've put my way. Good morning, everyone. A pleasure to be amongst all of you. And once again, thank you for having me here, giving me this platform to interact with what I think are a galaxy of change makers and global leaders in waiting. I'm told that nearly 60% of the students registered and attending are students. People are registered and attending are students. And that, to my mind, is extremely heartening because it really augurs well for the food and agriculture sector. I feel your vision, your energy, and your enterprise is just what the world needs to overcome this generational burden of poverty, hunger, and malnutrition. So it's indeed a great honor to be with all of you today. Professor Brady introduced me, but what is more important than my introduction is to introduce to you and make you knowledgeable about what an FAO is and what it does. FAO is a specialized agency of the UN. It is tasked with leading the international effort towards eradication of hunger and malnutrition. We have offices in 130 countries where we work for improving sustainability of agriculture, fisheries, and forestry, and help national governments in their endeavor to attain food and nutrition security. We are also the standard setting body and custodian of the most extensive database on food and agriculture globally. And this is essential that I mentioned because it's essential for keeping the world trade and the supply chain moving. So standard setting and data are 2 key ingredients which really keep the sector well oiled. And therefore, considering that FAO does what it does, it is right that we are the custodian of SDG 2 and are leading the international effort towards achieving zero hunger. Now, is zero hunger really within reach? And that's something which we need to consider. And my premise is it is and it is not. It is definitely not if we choose to conduct business as usual, if we do not transform, if we do not change. The writing is on the wall, the alarm bells are ringing loud and clear, asking us to change the way in which we conduct our business in agriculture and food-related sector. If we do not, then I'm sorry to say, but I think we are in for a very, very hard time going forward. And let us try and analyze this by breaking it up a bit. Where do we want to be in 2030 or beyond? And where are we today? And what are the challenges that we face as we try to traverse this distance between where we are and where we want to be? To understand where we want to be first, let the SDG 2 be our lodestar. Let SDG 2 be the guide by which we frame the position where we want to be as a globe in 2030 or maybe beyond. And what does our lodestar say? It says, by 2030, end hunger. By 2030, end malnutrition. By 2030, double agricultural productivity. By 2030, ensure sustainable food production systems. And we need to do all this. We need to do all this because we need to ensure that we escape from the trap of hunger and malnutrition and realize our full potential, both individually and as a society. But from where we want to be to where we are is a long distance, and we must understand and be fully aware of our current situation. We are in 2021, just 9 years away from the target date of 2030, or the delivery date, if you may so call it. And what does the current picture look like? 690 million people, that's about 9 to 10% of the world's population, are facing chronic hunger, and with nearly 130 million on the brink of famine or famine-like situation. Now, if this trend continues, forget eradicating hunger in 2030 or 2040, we are going to increase number of people inhabiting this globe who will be chronically hungry. If this trend continues, our estimate is that by 2030, we will have nearly 850 million people facing chronic hunger. Now let's break this down a bit more and look at the subset of children within this figure of where we are calling what is chronic hunger. And these are children who suffer for no fault of theirs and who are actually suffering as a consequence of our action. 144 million of them under the age of 5 are suffering from stunting, and another 47 million suffer from wasting. I'd say nearly 3 billion people globally today cannot afford a healthy diet and suffer from one form of malnutrition or another. Now, putting all this together, we see that nearly half the globe is either not eating or not eating well, suffering from one form of malnutrition or another. Now, let's park that for a moment. We'll come back to it, but let's park that for a moment. What I want to tell you is that numbers can be cold and impersonal. And the bigger they are, the more distant and detached they seem to be from us. If I told you that one person is dying of hunger, you and I would be energized to help that one person. But when I tell you that 700 million people are dying of hunger, you and I sit back and that same feeling or the same emotion doesn't come in. So at this stage, I would earnestly request all of you to really close your eyes and let the face of millions and millions of mothers crying in anguish and many million children howling in hunger flash by. And just hold a few of them with you. I ask you to hold them, just a few of those faces, just a few of those pictures in your mind, because they will keep you anchored and help you work hard to ensure that no one goes through life hungry and deprived. Just remember that each one of these numbers has a face behind it. They are human beings, and they deserve to be where you and I are today, free of hunger and free of basic wants. And it is imperative that we work for them. Now, I know the picture that I'm painting is bleak, but we have to etch it firmly in our mind. It is important that we study this picture in its minutest details and understand the most intricate nuances as we aspire to design appropriate solutions. We must remember that in food and hunger, there is no one size fits all. Each family, each society, each community, each country, each region, they come with their own context. And it is important for us to understand the context and also to accept it and to respect it. Change it if we must, but we have to understand and respect the context in which food and hunger and agriculture and nutrition, these things operate. Now, if where we want to be and where we are two fixed points that we have been able to determine, what we really need to see is how do we get there? What is the journey like? What are the challenges? I must tell you that multiple challenges exist, but we must embrace them. We need to surmount them. We need to emerge on the other side. There is no option. We have to come on the other side. Maybe we'll be bruised, but we cannot be defeated. We have to be successful. We have to ensure that we defeat hunger and defeat it within our lifetimes. But let me highlight just a very few of the concerns and challenges which are there. I'm not saying that these are all that I am listing out. There are many, many more challenges, but I'll highlight a few of them. The challenge of access. Now, you would have all heard that there's enough in the world to feed the whole global population. There's enough food being produced, and that even the population of 2050 will have enough. But then, is producing enough actually enough? I think we need to ask this question. Does everybody have access to food? But sadly, the answer is no. The highly inequitable economic growth pattern of countries around the world, and mind you, I'm not saying only the poor countries, I'm not saying only the global south. I'm including the developed world in this. The highly inequitable economic development patterns has seen to access being denied to those who need it most, those on the margins, those who are deprived, those who are disadvantaged. And in this whole aspect of access is also the issue of global trade, the global supply chains, the restrictions people bring upon trade and markets, and the functioning. So actually, a complete scenario of both physical and financial problems in accessing food. Then there's the challenge of nutrition, something which Professor Spain also touched upon. Is the calorie count of food all that we should be worried about? Should we not be concerned about the nutrient content of that food? Now, I'm not saying that we are not at all concerned. We have made some progress. We have reduced stunting. We have reduced wasting. But my problem is that the rate at which we are reducing stunting and wasting is so slow that there is absolutely no way that we are going to eradicate or halve this problem by any near future date. Then there are aspects within malnutrition where we are actually moving away from diet. Obesity is an example which comes to my mind straight away, where the move is away from the target. Instead of reducing, we're actually increasing. Now, this issue of nutrition becomes further complicated when we understand the cost of providing healthy diets and nutritious diets. Those of you who had access to and have read the 2020 report of FAO on state of food and agriculture would have realized that the findings are actually suggesting that the nutrition education and behavior change alone will not substantially improve dietary consumption. Even in the cheapest forms, nutrient adequate and healthy diets are unaffordable for a majority of the poor. And therefore, we have to change and make policies, bring in research and development to ensure that healthy diets become cheaper and accessible. The third very obvious challenge staring on our face is food loss and waste, which those of you who are working on campuses are well aware of. You have students, you have staff actually taking keen interest now in ensuring that the food loss and waste on campus is actually reduced and people who need food get it. But look at what is happening globally. On one hand, you have 700 million people who are starving. But on the other, we stand guilty of wasting nearly 1/3 of the food that we produce. 14% between production and pre-retail, and nearly 17% being wasted on retail, food service, and consumer level. The latest UNEP report, if you look at the latest UNEP report of 2000, recently released, I think last year, it shows that nearly 930 million tons of food were wasted in 2019, which is nearly 17% of ready-to-consume food, thrown away at the retail, food service, and consumer level. Now, this, to my mind, is a criminal waste. Even within US, 30 to 40% food is being wasted despite nearly 50 million food insecure people in this country. And this has to stop. Remember, it's not just the food thrown, it's also a waste of precious and fast dwindling natural resources. And it is also addition of nearly 8 to 10% to the total greenhouse gases. Now, all this, going forward, all these challenges have to be seen in the context of climate change and fast dwindling natural resources. I won't delve very deep into this because most of you are pretty well aware, or at least have heard about the impact of climate change and where we stand. But let me suffice it by saying that the way we are functioning is not sustainable. Our agriculture is nature exploitative. We are not giving back. We are just exploiting. And this story cannot continue. As a sector, agriculture today uses 70% of freshwater resources. We are using up nearly 50% of the Earth's habitable land. We are responsible for adding nearly 1/3 to the total global greenhouse gases. And also, we are a sector which is very deeply impacted by rising temperatures and erratic weather patterns. So we have to look as we go forward in this journey and try to change issues of access, try to change issues around nutrition, try to change issues around food loss and waste. We have to study the whole thing within a context of fast deteriorating climate conditions and erratic weather conditions. So overall, it appears that we are in a bad place. We are in a hard place. But yet, my request is, and my submission is, that we have to set our sights very high and we have to get there. So what do we do? To my mind, many of the clues lie in the 4 broad themes which this event is discussing over the next couple of days: transformation, innovation, community, and advocacy. One thing which the pandemic has clearly brought forth is the inadequacy in our current food systems to ensure a hunger-free society. In fact, even before the pandemic, this was quite obvious, and it moved the UN Secretary General to convene a food system summit this year in September to discuss and develop a pathway to a more healthy, sustainable, and equitable food system, which in itself is extremely important in achieving not just SDG 2, but in all the 17 SDGs which are there. And this food system summit operates through 5 action tracks which are on access to safe and nutritious food, on sustainable consumption, on nature positive production, on equitable livelihoods, and on resilience to vulnerabilities. So the need has been recognized, something has been put in place, and we are all really looking forward to what comes out of this food system summit. Similarly, innovation. How do we go about transforming food system? The ways in which we work has to change. We have to innovate. We have to bring in science. We have to bring in technology. I am the first one to say, be grounded in the past. Do not throw tradition out. Be grounded in the past, but you must be ready to embrace the future. We must be ready and have the courage and capacity to accept new practices, new science, new evidence. Quickly moving on to the next, community and partnerships. Now, nobody, mind you, no one can do it alone, whether it be a person, an organization, or government. No agency, no organization, no government can do it alone. So it is imperative that we pool our resources and our strength and ensure that no one is left behind. Partnerships are extremely important for the optimum utilization of resources, building on our knowledge base and technical capacity, and even reaching out to the beneficiary population effectively and efficiently. However, and this is important, to bring about transformation or innovation or partnerships, we need advocacy. Unless a loud, positive, and sustained noise is raised around the issue of hunger and malnutrition. And mind you, I mean this in a very positive sense. It's not noise as in an irritant, but it's in a noise where we actually try and advocate very loudly, very effectively for policies which must be backed by finance to come by. Remember that there will always be competing demands and trade-offs. So the stronger our voice, the more likely that it would be heard. We all need to be out there advocating for the cause of hunger and malnutrition, or rather for the cause of eradication of hunger and malnutrition, for the cause of ending the helplessness of millions of men, women, and children crying in anguish, for the cause of saving millions and millions of people who are on the brink of starvation and death, and most important, for the cause of leaving behind a better world for the coming generations. Achieving zero hunger is a big task. It's a tall order, but it's also absolutely critical and vital. It's imperative, it's a must. There is no option. And therefore we need to aim high, and we need to work hard, and we need to rededicate ourselves. The challenges are big, but to our student community, I must say that the opportunities are also endless. And if we all resolve together, I'm sure we can achieve it. To me, hope has an immense strength. For me, hope is more than a feel-good emotion. It's an action-oriented strength involving agency. It has to have the motivation and confidence that goals can be reached, and also that many effective pathways can be devised in order to get there in the desired future. I'm an internal optimist, so as I end my talk today, let me tell you, or let me rather quote from Robert Browning's famous poem, which has always inspired me. The poem is called Andrea del Sarto. This has always encouraged, these lines have always encouraged me to hope, or rather some one-line thing which has always encouraged me to hope, and I really, really wish that it will encourage you too. Browning writes, and I quote, "Ah, but a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for?" Unquote. To all the students participating today, that is my message to you. Go grasp the heaven. Only you can do it. Only the youth can do it. Go for it. Thank you.
Mr. Sharan, thank you so very much. You presented a very sobering, challenging, but inspiring and promising presentation to this group. A wonderful way to start off this exciting week. We had a number of questions that have come in the chat line, and maybe you'll get a chance to look at those. Unfortunately, we'll not have the time to take them up right now, but we hope they can be answered. So thank you so much for what you've done to get us started. Best
Thank you. Thank you, Brady. And definitely, if you send a question my way, I promise to respond to it.
Wonderful. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.